Hi, my name is Shaye. Welcome to my YouTube channel, where I talk about various topics that interest me. Most of it is woven around humor and life lessons, and it's rather cathartic for me. So I'm doing it mostly for me, but I'm sharing it in case you might be interested or you're looking for a laugh. Before we go any further, it is fairly new hobby for me. It is fairly new and I am still trying to find a consistent pattern in doing it. However, one of my intentions for 2026 is to grow this channel. And if you are a very kind person who would like to help me with that, please subscribe to the channel. There's an icon below with my face and blonde hair on a motorized thing, because it's not a bike, it's not a dirt bike, I don't know what you call that, but anyway, if you click on that you can subscribe. If you stay till the end, you will always see that. You'll also see that same icon come up. You can click on it and subscribe, and I thank you in advance. So today, the phrase that's been coming up for me, and I am Nigerian, doing the bio at the start of each of these is rather exhausting. I get why the girls do it, because people don't watch everything. People watch one video or a couple videos and they walk away. So if you don't give a robust understanding of you and what you're doing and why you're here and who you are, there are no context for a lot of these conversations. I get it, but it's exhausting. Anywho, part of my background is I'm Nigerian. So some of my conversations are culturally centered and some of the jokes are tied into that. But you get it if you follow along. Anywho, so I'm Nigerian. One of the phrases that's been coming up for me is a saying we have, which is "I'm not your age mate," and it's literal. Some part of it is literal when people say it, in that literally say. I'm in my 40s. So say someone in my 20s is like messing with me. And one of my comeback term could be, I'm not your age mate. And like, I'm older than you. I've seen more of life than you. I deserve some ounce of respect from you. So some of it is literal in terms of age, but some of it is just metaphorical in terms of levels. It could be economical status. It could be societal status. It could be several things, right? So one example is recently I was socializing with two new people that I just met, just as friends, two guys, and they were talking. And they're two young men, younger than me. But I've said on this channel, I like observing, I like watching people. So I was in the room with them, but I wasn't engaging in the conversation actively per se. So they got really immersed in their conversations, and they were both talking about how they court women because they're two young men. And one of the guys, again, I know little about these people. I just met them. I know their name. I know nothing else about them. One of the guys talked about how his preferred method of courting women is to buy them Birkins. I don't have any way of validating this. If you know the cost of Birkins, you're probably like, huh? Me too. I was like, huh? And at that point, I leaned into the conversation because, if we buy Birkins and I'm in the vicinity, why can't I get one? So anywho, he was going on about how he gets the girls the Birks, and I happen to mention I don't mind a Birk. I could use a Birk, if the requirement to get the Birk is not that high. Then the other guy who was in the conversation chimed in and said, yeah, man, I like to get the girls stuff, but I like to get the girls Telfars. And as you as you probably gathered, the entire room just went kind of quiet, like. And he repeated it. He's like, like Telfars. And there's nothing wrong with Telfars. Look, cute design. I'm the whole concept behind it. The gentleman who started it, his story, fascinating, right? But in the context of Birkins, that was one of those moments where the phrase "I'm not your age mate" applied. So I basically told him, I said, you are not at the table with your age mate. Like this is not your level. Like when someone's talking Birkin to court the girls, you don't chime up and go, yeah, I get Telfars. It's not, you're not peers in that regard. So this phrase has been coming up to me, and I think the American or the more Western, equivalent of that saying would be something to the fact of birds of the same feather. It's basically every society has a variation of this saying where it's basically saying people with similar characteristics, maybe life aspirations, maybe desires, tend to gather together, which is true because you have things in common. You kind of want to be around people who you feel comfortable with, people who remind you of yourself. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But, and there's a reason for this ramble. There's always a reason for the ramble. So the thing about it though is sometimes we can lean into that a little too hard that it prevents us from leveling up. And I have been guilty of that oftentimes, right? Where you stay in your comfort zone, or even as simple as if you're anything like me, I did 19 years in corporate, you go to happy hours. When I would go to these happy hours, networking things, which, you know, those networking things where it's literally called networking. Like, you know, there's this pressure, like you better go there and get a business card and say hi and be friendly and everybody knew you showed up. That kind of networking thing. I've been to those. And oftentimes I was the person who would be like, well, who I know is going? I'm a call, text, email, bird call, whatever, you know, like who do I know that's going? Because when I arrive, that is immediately who I'm angling for in the corner. And that's who I'm hovering around. And that's my security blanket till I get the F out of here. Because why I might present as an extrovert, deep buried in me is an introvert who likes her safe spaces. So I used to do that in the early days of my career, where I would go to these events. There would be so many different leaders and people in the room, but I was way too intimidated and I would just stay with my friends. Unless my friends go to talk to them, then I would hover around my friends. But what I learned is it's a missed opportunity. I would leave these events knowing the same people I knew, learning nothing new. Maybe I had a free snack or two, but I never really took advantage of the opportunity in that room. So at some point, I started talking to mentors and people who were further ahead of me, because at some point, if you're an aspirational person, you realize to get to the next thing, you kind of have to talk to the people in front of you, like, because they already did it. You know, hence the whole concept of mentors, which is a conversation we'll have for another day. I'm not against mentorship, but I do think it has to be done in a specific way. And I think chemistry and rapport is a key component of that. You can't just tag someone a mentor for mentor's sake and force that relationship. It has to have an organic nature to it. But like I said, sidebar, we'll talk about mentorship one day. So I would go to these events, but then I started meeting people who I had rapport with, who I felt comfortable talking to, and I would confide in them about how I'm not comfortable. Like, I feel so freaking awkward. I already told you I grew up as the awkward, shy kid. And then you throw me in this thing where it's like, oh, you got a network and I'm in this uncomfortable suit and these people like years ahead of me and God knows what do we even have in common? I don't know, you know? And I would leave basically just with the person that I knew who came, or in the corner snacking, you know? And they really poured into me. It helped me know I was doing myself a disservice. Those people, they actually don't need to be there. You know, like they've already accomplished, for the most part, what they want out of their professional career. They've already gotten what they want out of life, for the most part, right? The only reason they're there is because they want to help. So how silly of you to go and not get the help when you're the one who needs it, right? So when that finally sank in with me, that's when I would go to those events absolutely cringing and terrified, but started going by myself and forcing myself to say, you will at least leave here with one or two new contacts. You will have conversations that initially they're awkward as hell, right? Because I would start with weather and I don't do sports, so it's mostly weather. And, you know, do you have a cat or a goldfish? Like that, that's where I would hover in. But after I kind of mastered myself and mastered my interests, I would be able to pivot really quickly to like social events, economic things, what's happening globally, like, you know, and that's why reading is important. Some of y'all need to read, you know, it helps to have those kinds of dialogue with people who have varied interests from you and who have varied lives from you. So I say that to say, the notion of I'm not your age mate, while I love it and I love to pull that card a lot, right? Like, you are not at my level, you are not at my status, is very valid, but really there's a component of it where leaning into it too much could keep you from advancing, from going to the next stage of life, which is being uncomfortable and reaching for people who are further ahead of you, people who trying to get yourself in those rooms that there's not a lot of you in it. And that was another big thing with me being a woman of color in corporate. I was in a lot of rooms where nobody looked like me. Absolutely nobody. And I got to figure out how to socialize with these people and be friendly and get them to like me. It's uncomfortable, but it is a necessary piece of succeeding in society. And like I said in some of these videos, I am a big person who travels solo. So part of what I helped hone those skills was when I traveled solo, practicing with strangers, how to engage in conversations actually helped me when I came home and I had to do those networking things and, be a normal human in front of people that I don't know and try to pitch myself. So, yeah, that's what came up today. I am not your age mate. Got me thinking about how we can sometimes hinder ourselves from progressing if we stick too close to what we're accustomed to, too close to what we're comfortable with, and we don't push ourselves out of our comfort zone. So yeah, that's it. And while you're here, if you stayed this long, you are enjoying this, please subscribe. One of my desires this year is to make money. I was unemployed and I still currently am unemployed. If you missed the videos, it's out there. My business is on the road. And I'm trying to make money in 2026. And one of my means to accomplish that is hopefully monetizing this channel. I realize it won't make a whole lot, but my goal is broad. It's literally money. So even if I get $2 here, the goal was accomplished. It's a source of income. Can you please click on the subscribe button below where my face is in a blonde hair on a bike thingy? I appreciate that. And while you're here, you might as well watch some more videos. I got several of them now. You might as well get to know me and share with your friends and like and comment. Let's talk. Let's network in the most organic way we can in this thing that's YouTube. All right. I hope you have a nice day and thanks for watching. Bye.